Our podcast is brought to you by Anchor. If you have not heard about Anchor, it is the easier way to make a podcast. It's free and they give you great tools and resources. Download the free Anchor app on your phone or go to anchor.fm to get started. ANCHOR. That's Anchor.
That's Anchor.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hoops R Us. This is probably going to be my favorite episode. Today we are honoring Kobe Bryant. My dad is the biggest Kobe Bryant fan I know. I grew up hearing about Kobe Bryant since I was a baby. And last year, during this week, Kobe Bryant passed away in a tragic accident. Today we celebrate the life of Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, and the life of Kobe Bryant, the person. So, stay tuned for a very special episode of Hoops R Us. I have been waiting a while to do this episode with you, Dad. It's been 6 episodes, actually, that I've been doing this podcast, and this has been like a fun experience. And also, happy early birthday. I know your birthday's at the end of the week.
Thank you, buddy.
And as your birthday present, I thought of getting you a gift. And I thought, hey, why not do a Kobe Bryant episode on my podcast since that was your icon, right?
There you go. No, I appreciate it, buddy. I'm super, super proud of you for starting this podcast and following it through. Every week you come up with some creative content, and I'm just really proud of you, buddy. I'm really proud of your initiative to do this, to establish this platform where you're able to talk about your favorite sport of basketball. And again, just super, super proud of what you're doing over here with Hoops R Us. So congratulations, buddy. Glad to be here and really excited about this episode.
Yeah, thank you. And hey guys, stay tuned for an awesome episode of Hoops R Us. So Dad, here's how I want to do it. I want to talk about each of Kobe's important seasons. I want to talk about the iconic moments of each season. And yeah, so let's get right into it.
Perfect.
Obviously, in 1996, Kobe Bryant gets drafted by the Hornets in the 13th pick, but then got traded to the Lakers for Vlad Divac.
That was such a steal. I mean, Vlade Divac was a good center. He was a good big man, but they just traded away one of the greatest players that will ever play. They must be like, oh my gosh, we ruined that.
I mean, they did not know, right or wrong.
It's true. High school players was a lottery pick. I mean, in all sense of the word. You never knew what you were going to get with a lottery player. You could have gotten the Kobe's, the Kevin Garnett's, or you could have had a guy that was going to be a bust and was never going to turn into an all-star.
Yeah. Well, and then obviously he got traded to the Lakers, like I said, and he got eliminated by the Utah Jazz in the semifinals, where he did shoot 2 air balls from the 3-point line.
I mean, so you know what's crazy? I'll quickly tell you the story of how I even became a Kobe fan. So, 96, I got into sports. I was a huge Yankee fan. This was Derek Jeter's rookie season. So, as I was a Yankee fan, Derek Jeter was like the new guy. He was a shortstop. He was a good contact hitter. He was batting in the bottom of the lineup. And me, when I was a little baseball player playing with my cousins and my brother, I was usually batting in the bottom of the lineup. I wasn't hitting any home runs. So I related to what I saw in Derek Jeter. So he became my favorite player. With Kobe, I just like the fact that he was a flashy dunker. Like, he was a really good dunker. I think in that 97 season, he won the slam dunk championship.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a Kobe fan. I was a Laker fan. And when he shot those air balls, I was like, I was like 8 years old, and I shot a bunch of air balls too. But he didn't care. He was eventually going to give you a nice dunk. He was, not afraid to take a shot, and I thought that was really cool. So I became a Kobe fan. So I had Kobe and Jeter, and I don't know that at the time I was old enough or realized that they were potentially going to be really good players in their sports.
I mean, that's just crazy. Do you just like Derek Jeter as a rookie, one of the best baseball players ever, and like Kobe Bryant as a rookie as well, when he was a rookie, as like one of the best NBA players ever. I mean, that's just crazy. That's why I always ask you, are you sure you like them in their rookie year? Like, that's just wow.
Listen, I mean, it's coincidence, but yeah, those were the guys that I loved on my two favorite teams. And yeah, I mean, this too, Kobe became really good really quickly as well, and so did Jeter. Jeter became the shortstop of the New York Yankees, so that's like the most popular position in baseball. And
Hmm.
then in basketball, the most popular position is the two guard. So that's probably what I was being fed through the TV anyway. It was just looking at those two guys, and they just had a certain swag about them. I mean, Kobe and Jeter just seemed to always be focused, always seemed to kind of be those players that you want to look up to. Like they were just fun to watch, and the way they carried themselves. I mean, again, as a kid, I saw them as idols. Those guys were like the best.
Yeah. In the next season, Kobe Bryant makes his first All Star game, averaging 15.4 points per game. And how do you feel about that?
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he was like 19 years old. It was one of the youngest ever to be named an All-Star, and he was already showing flashes of being a superstar. I don't remember how he got in, how he became an All-Star. I don't know if it was because somebody got injured, but it was his first All-Star game. I remember he was going at it with Jordan, I think, in
Yep.
that All-Star game, right? And Jordan was still punking him. Jordan was like, let me show this young guy a couple things.
Yeah.
Because Kobe was still not like ready, but he had some nice dunks. He had a nice alley oop that he got. He got a couple nice plays that All Star game, and it was like he's coming. Like that young kid is coming. I think I saw a couple of documentaries that the East All Stars were already saying like, "Whoa, well, watch out for that kid. Like he looks good."
Mm-hmm. And it's funny how you get actually, and he still holds the record for being the youngest player to make an All-Star appearance.
Oh,
And
look at that.
yeah. And it's funny how Kobe's like he wasn't at the level yet, and I think he was a starter actually in that All-Star game. And it's just crazy how you're just seeing two goats going off at each other.
Yeah, well, one of them knew they were a goat already. The other one,
Well, yeah.
nobody knew except him.
Yeah, I mean, Kobe had that confidence that he knew from the beginning, I'm going to be the best. And that was his, like, mentality, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the draft. Remember, 12 people were picked ahead of Kobe, and that was a stacked draft. I mean, you had Allen Iverson, you had
Mm-hmm.
Ray Allen, you had
Marbury.
Steve Nash was at the end of that
Oh,
draft.
yeah.
So there was some really good players, but Nash got picked after him. But before him, a bunch of players got picked before him, and a bunch of them became all stars as well. But he ended up being the best player in that class.
Yeah, and it's crazy, but like I said earlier, you just never at those times a high schooler. I mean, you don't know if that guy's gonna be like a 20-time All Star or something like that. You just like never know.
You don't even know that with your first pick. Imagine with a high schooler as your 13th pick. But here we are. So we're 3 years in. We've got a promising future, a couple of air balls in the playoffs, so that didn't look good. But
Mm-hmm.
wins a slam dunk contest, makes the All-Star game the next year. So how's 99 looking? I know we didn't win no championship, but how'd that year fan out for him?
Well, in '99, I believe you guys had a lockout, so the NBA kind of started late. You think you could tell me more on that?
Yeah. So there was a lockout. There was a contracting issue between the players and the owners. And actually, what's interesting about that year that was the start of another dynasty that would end up being rivals to the Lakers because the Spurs won the
Oh,
championship in 99. And for like the next, it feels like the next 20 years after that, it was either the Spurs or the Lakers, or the next 10 years after that. So they had a little guy by the name of Timothy Duncan that if you mention Kobe's era, Tim Duncan is right there. Like he was probably one of the best big men in the game. And as far as winning, him and Kobe, they just got rings. I don't know off the top of my head how many Duncan has, but I'm pretty sure Duncan probably has 4 to 5 rings himself.
yeah, and Duncan was at that level at that time. Like in that decade, it was, don't get me wrong, in early that it was Shaq really and Kobe. But then when Shaq like was leaving and all that, it was just Kobe or Tim, Kobe or Tim.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of challengers too. So what was funny is, and what made me so proud to be a Kobe fan is every 2 3 years there was this new guy. First it was, oh, Allen Iverson is better than Kobe, and everybody's on the Allen Iverson bandwagon. And no, Kobe was better.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was, oh, this guy Tracy McGrady, he's better. He's a better scorer. He's better than Kobe. Nope, Kobe was better. There was always somebody, the Vince Carter,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, McGrady and AI. There was a lot of popular guys, but at the end of the day, the Black Mamba was the Black Mamba, and he had a more consistent career. He had the stats, he had the wins, he had the rings. He was the full package, man.
Yeah, and well, that's Kobe Bryant, right? He's a Black
There you
Mamba.
go.
He's a beast, and yeah. And the next season, you're gonna be excited about this one. Next season, obviously, Kobe makes another All Star, but this time Kobe wins his first NBA championship against Reggie Miller and his Pacers.
That was so fun. That was the best because this is where Kobe gets his first taste of being a winner, kind of being on top of the mountain. There's a bit of a storyline that's happening underneath where, yeah, Kobe gets his ring and wow, he's a champion, but there's this other guy named Shaquille O'Neal that's the finals MVP, and Kobe's like the
Mm-hmm.
Robin right now.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that he was ever okay with that, but it was easier to accept for the first championship. But as we start getting down the line, we'll see how that story develops.
I mean, yeah, you're right. And it took years for Kobe to become like the Batman of the Lakers. Cause Shaq is Shaq. I mean, the guy used to break backboards. The guy's like appeared in like multiple All Stars. The guy is Shaq. That's Superman right there.
Yeah, listen, Shaq was the most dominating player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as a dominant force, it was Shaq. Like he was just a beast. But it didn't take that long. It didn't take that long for Kobe to realize that he was good enough to be the Batman. And that's where the feud between him and Shaq started to develop. So as you kind of get into that third championship and kind of into those years where they didn't do so well, that's where you start to notice the bickering between Kobe and Shaq and the fighting and the arguing. And Kobe's biggest complaint was, you're so great, but you don't put in the work in practice. You don't get in shape. You're overweight. And you just want to kind of show up and you want to party all the time and all this stuff. So Kobe, I think, despised that from Shaq because Shaq has so much talent, yet he was not, taking full advantage of it. And Kobe wanted to win 20 rings, if it was up to him. But that on top of the fact that I think Kobe's ego didn't want him to be the Robin anymore. So, as you fast forward to say 2002, obviously another All-Star, we got ourselves another ring. We had some crazy battles with like the Sacramento
Mm-hmm.
Kings. Oh, we had that shot, big shot Bob against the Kings. I don't know if that was '02, but I remember in those years, those Sacramento Kings were like the biggest rival of the Lakers, and of course the Spurs.
Yeah.
But in those years, we had a lot of battle with those Sacramento Kings, and Shaq and Kobe were a 1-2 punch. By the time they got to their second championship, it was like a 1-2 machine. and they were just dominating the league.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that year 2000. So, speaking of fights, I think you guys were playing like the Knicks at the time, right?
Oh, you're gonna do this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where did you even find this? This is not in no stats.
Well, I found it I was searching up YouTube Kobe Bryant fights.
Oh my God.
So, I believe
My
that
own son. It's the ones
Chris,
that are close to you.
it was what, Chris Childs? I think his name was on it. Yeah. Chris Childs, who threw, I guess they had a rivalry, right?
It
And
wasn't no rivalry, it was a fight. A rivalry is
okay,
when
okay.
somebody's good enough to have a rivalry with you. But yeah, it is what it is. Chris Childs gave Kobe a
A
1-2.
1-2.
Kobe
One,
didn't
two.
know what was coming. And by the time Kobe realized, oh, we're not arguing, we're like really fighting, it was like, dude, it's over. Like Kobe was ready to fight. And the fight was over already. It was like, you already got a two-piece. Would you like some fries with that?
Oh
I
my
can't believe you
god.
brought that up. I thought we were going to talk about highlights and stats.
Nah. I mean, that's a highlight right there, man. I mean, Chris Childs and oh my gosh. And usually
All right,
Kobe is
all right,
aggressive. What happened there? Huh?
all right, all right. So what happened there is we got another ring.
Okay.
So how about that?
Okay.
Another championship. What happened the following year?
And the following year, 2001, that's when you guys won your second against AI, the MVP that season.
There we go. Good battle against AI, but there was no match. The Lakers were too
I
much,
mean, in
too
game
much.
one, he dropped like 40 on you guys.
Yeah, but at this point, so this is where Kobe starts to realize that he's good enough to be that Batman. I think by the second championship, I don't know what the stats were, but Kobe was no longer some guy getting like 15, 20 anymore. He was like up there in stats and he was taking over late in games as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, he always had that mentality as a rookie. So maybe this was an opportunity that year. I think that was an opportunity for him to actually become the Batman. Because I tell you this much, I bet he worked twice as hard there as Shaq. Because Shaq was over there in clubs, rapping. Well, Kobe rapped, but like Shaq was rapping at clubs. It was like, that's the James Harden right there, partying, going with celebrities. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, but you know what? It was still Shaq's team. It is what it is. It was still Shaq's team, and Shaq was still Finals MVP
mm-hmm.
over and over for all three of those championships. So yeah, let's go. So what was the following year? Following year was for the three-peat, right?
Yep. Following year, 2002, when you guys beat the Jason Kidd and the Nets.
Yep. So that was it's crazy because when they won that third championship, so it's so back to the coincidence, right? So I was a Lakers fan, and here goes my team winning three championships in a row. I was a Yankee fan, and around the same time, the Yankees won it in 96, lost in 97, but then they won it in 98, 99, and 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So both of my teams were winning championships back to back. I'm like, this is the best. I'm just going to root for these teams, and I'm going to win a championship every year. And I bet the Lakers thought with this Kobe and Shaq combination, we're gonna win like 10 rings. I bet that's what everybody thought, but that was the end of that run right there. That was the last championship.
Mm-hmm. And you guys had Phil Jackson, one of the best
Yeah, well,
coaches in NBA history.
Yeah, we got Phil Jackson right after his last championship with the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got him that lockout year. I don't think there was enough time to build that chemistry, but then we went on another three-peat with Phil Jackson. He was the difference. I think Phil Jackson just knew how to handle superstars. I hate the fact that we had that gap when Shaq left. I know we're going to get to that, but when Shaq left and when Phil Jackson left, it was a train wreck. It was a disaster, and it took Phil Jackson coming back to kind of get back to those glory days.
Yeah. And the guy has like, what, 11 coach rings? Jesus.
Yeah, listen, Phil Jackson is the best coach ever.
Yeah. Anyways, in the next season, and I really want to get into this one, the next season, this is where Kobe comes up with the nickname, as we all know, the Black Mamba.
Oof, the Black Mamba was born.
Yep.
So the Black Mamba, first of all, it was a dominating snake, right? So it was a dominating alter ego
Mm-hmm.
that Kobe developed, but it came from a place of anger, frustration, embarrassment. He went through a really bad situation in early in that '03 season, and there was so much negative press about him. I mean, he was being embarrassed all over the media. People kept asking questions. They were all over his personal life. And so, as the story tells it, he kind of created that Black Mamba to basically zone everybody out. Like he was just focused on playing basketball and just
Mm.
dominating. He would dominate whoever was up against him that night. And it's as if he was in playoff mode like the entire season as soon as he created the Black Mamba. So he was just on a different level of focus. But either way, I mean, we ended up losing in the championship, but still, that's when he really saw I can be the best player on this franchise and I can take this franchise to the next level.
Yeah, and he averaged 30 points. Well, that '02 and '03, I think you guys lost to the Spurs actually in the semifinals. You guys
Of
swept you
course,
guys.
I'm telling you, it was either the Spurs or the Lakers, but that must have been really frustrating to lose against the Spurs that year. That must have really been frustrating. And then they made so many changes with the Lakers the following year. I mean, go ahead. Let's get into what is it, '04
Mm-hmm.
the following year?
Yeah, Kobe
Uh,
averages 24 points, but you guys lose to the Pistons. And you guys have Karl Malone and Gary Payton.
yeah, that was our version of a super team. Not quite, but yeah, that was a tough year because we there was no team chemistry. There was just not enough good chemistry, but still, it was considered a choke job, you know? It was still a really bad finals loss. We ran into this team that had insane defense, like 1 through 5. They all played good defense. They had good leaders. They had great role players. I mean, it was just walking into the perfect storm, and we weren't clicking. And Gary Payton and Karl Malone looked older than ever. And the only game we won was on a buzzer beater by Kobe Bryant. I think we only won like one game in
Yeah.
that series, but it was so frustrating, and you could almost sense it. It was like, oh, this is not going to end well. This is the end of it. Everybody knew it, and then that's exactly what happened at the end of that season.
Mm-hmm. And the next season, Shaq leaves Kobe Bryant.
That was heartbreaking. I mean, although, as a Kobe fan, if you told me pick Kobe or Shaq, I'm going to pick Kobe. And that was a tough decision for the Lakers, but it was one of the most, as a Lakers fan, it was very disappointing because we wanted to keep competing for championships. It's like, listen, you can't win them all. Let's just regroup and do it again. But those guys hated each other so much at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was over. It was over. And it was one of the best duos that should have won 5 more championships together. And because their egos wouldn't let them, it sucks because it's one of those things where I wish Kobe would have kind of taken the high road a little bit, even though he was in the prime of his career, because Shaq was on his way out already. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously 2 years later he won his own ring with the Heat, but he was already the Robin to Dwayne Wade. So that could have easily been Kobe, but I think he was willing to be the Robin to Dwayne Wade because he kind of wanted to prove a point and he knew he wasn't the same Shaq anymore. But I think if he would have stayed in the Lakers, he would have never, just in spite of Kobe Bryant, he probably would have never let Kobe become the Batman.
Yeah.
just because of how much they hated each other.
Mm-hmm. And I bet it was devastating, like in the beginning, because it was either one of them was going to go. Because I know that Kobe Bryant actually demanded a trade to the Bulls, and it was like one of us is going to go, Kobe or Shaq. And yeah.
I actually think he was a free agent. I think Kobe was a free agent that year, and he was really close to signing with the Bulls. And it was crazy because as a Lakers fan, I was like, oh man, please don't leave the team because then, am I going to still root for the Lakers? Am I rooting for Kobe? But from what I heard, he was really close to joining the Bulls, which would have been so crazy. Like, come on, man, you're gonna go to the team of the person that you idolize. Like,
Exactly.
build your own thing. But I think the Lakers knew. They were like, listen, we got to stick to this Kobe guy. He is the real deal, and he's destined for greatness. And the Lakers took a gamble. They gave up on Shaq, who still had another couple seasons under his belt where he can still lead them to a championship. But they said, you know what, we got to look at our future, and they picked right.
Hmm.
Even though Shaq ended up winning another chip, they made the right decision.
Yeah. And well, Kobe did win one more than him. Just giving out a spoiler.
But I bet it stung Kobe when Shaq won that ring. I bet when Kobe was in his living room, he wasn't saying, "Yeah, congratulations, Shaq." I bet he was hating
Hmm.
because Shaq just showed I could win without Kobe.
Yeah.
So it's like balls on your court. Now what?
I mean, the next season, Kobe still had a breakout year. Kobe makes 81 points against the Raptors, averaging 35.4.
Listen, that was Kobe's breakout season. So when Shaq leaves and Kobe's entering his prime, Kobe was flat out dominating the league, dominating. Like nobody could touch Kobe. Everybody knew Kobe was the best player in basketball at that time. And whoever says no is a hater. Like Kobe was dominating the NBA. He just couldn't win. He didn't have a team that could take him deep into the playoffs. So he still had to learn how to create his own team because he came from a place where he had Shaq, he had Derek Fisher, he had all these great role players around him, and he had Shaq. So now here you go, you're Batman. Here's the keys to the car, and Kobe was dominating, but nobody else was at his level, and he didn't know how to make other players better. But that 81 point game, man, Sander, this thing that was one of the funnest games I had ever seen. So I was in high school at this time, and I would record the games that they would give like Laker games on NBA TV,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like record them on VCR. So when that game happened, I had spoiler alert. I heard about it on Sports
Wow.
Center, and everybody was going crazy. I didn't care. I went to see that
Mm,
game, and it was just it's crazy because like a game before, 2 games before, he scored like 60 points on the Mavericks in 3 quarters. So he probably could have had more points that game. But this game against the Raptors, we were losing. We were actually losing late in the third quarter. I think even in the fourth, we were still down. And Kobe single handedly made like every shot he took. It was like watching a video game. He was making everything. There was like 5 people guarding him, and he didn't care. He wasn't passing that ball to nobody. I bet he had like 0 assists in the entire fourth quarter.
yeah.
But he went off, and that game didn't even go to overtime. So he scored a straight up 81 points in a 4 quarter game. It was beautiful to watch. Just crazy. He should have been MVP that year. I think it was robbery that they gave it to Steve
Mm-hmm.
Nash.
Well, speaking of Steve Nash, you guys choked a 3-1 lead against the Suns, and you guys were the seventh seed. So if you guys had beaten the Suns, that would have been like one a great upset.
That was what year was that? That we was that the
Mm-hmm.
same year of the 81
Mm-hmm.
points? Wow. I mean, listen, to get into those Suns rivalries, there was this guy named Raja Bell. He was the one that was in charge of guarding Kobe Bryant. I mean, he body slammed Kobe in one of these games because he was so frustrated. They were always going at it, and I hated the Suns. I hated D'Antoni. That's when three ball, the fast play started.
Mm-hmm.
That whole era, and they would make so many points so quick, a bunch of 3 pointers, and Steve Nash was always in the middle of delivering that dagger or making the right play. Like he was, oh my God, nobody could stop Steve Nash when he was in the Suns. He was just a killer.
Yeah.
So hey, listen, the better team won. The better team won. But the fact that we even made it to the playoffs and we were the seventh seed and it was Kobe pretty much by himself, I still think he should have won MVP. He was averaging like 34 points a
Yep.
game, and they still didn't give him the MVP. Like that was that. But then again, that's what happened with the creation of the Black Mamba. Kobe didn't have many friends in the media. Kobe was not a nice guy. So that the MVP vote is made by sports writers and media. and those guys didn't like Kobe Bryant. So it's one of those awards where yeah, it's fun to be the MVP, and Kobe only won one time, but think about it. I mean, how could somebody like Michael Jordan not win it every single year that he ever played?
True.
How could somebody like a Kobe not win it like 10 times? A guy like Shaq, a guy like LeBron. LeBron should have like 10
True.
MVPs. I mean, let's face it. We're over here still saying that LeBron's the best player and he's like 40, you know? So it's one of those things where you got to be loved by the media and it's like, whatever. I think Kobe should have won way more MVPs.
Yeah. I mean, so many robberies for Michael. The robberies were always his. It'll make him like it'll dedicate him because funny part is the robberies that he will get from MVP. He will face him in like the finals basically. So like for Charles Barkley robbed an MVP, faced him in the finals, beat him. Karl Malone,
Beat him
yeah,
bad too.
Karl Malone robbed an MVP from him. And yep, he won that like twice in a row though.
That's what separates the goats from the really good players. You know, the goat talk is goat talk, and Kobe was up there. Kobe was up there with, MVPs are cute and all, but I'm focused on championships. You guys could have MVPs.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was harder on Kobe. Because with Michael, he always had Pippen like basically his whole career. And the Wizards, he was old already, so even if he was like in his prime, it would be hard to carry that team. But he did not carry that team, so
Yeah,
Kobe
no,
had it more harder than him,
no,
I think.
yeah, Kobe. But the problem is that Kobe was the Pippen to Shaq, and Kobe didn't like that. So he had to take his lumps. He had to take his moments of having a couple of losing seasons, and then he became Batman, and that's the introduction of Pau Gasol. So let's fast forward to '08,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was when we were back to the significant stuff. Did we miss anything before that?
Not really.
All right, so here we are in '08. So what do you got for '08?
'08, we obviously have Kobe wins his first MVP. Lakers get Paul Gasol. Kobe averaged like 28.3 points per game, and they lost to the Celtics in the NBA Finals.
Listen, first of all, the MVP was awesome because it was like a long time coming. Kobe should have been had those MVPs, especially as soon as Shaq left, but it is what it
Mm-hmm.
is. But the MVP was really cool. It was a nice little feather on the hat. At least he got one of those. But the addition of Pau Gasol, I mean, these guys were running plays in Spanish. They had such good chemistry. To this day, and I know we're going to talk about this later on, but Pau Gasol is a great friend of Kobe Bryant. They made such a great connection, and that tag team was awesome. Him and Pau Gasol was a really really good duo, and that was a good year. We weren't even expected to make it to the finals that year because I mean we had just started clicking. It was the first year full season with Pau Gasol, and to be up there with the Celtics, and the Celtics were no bums. It was the big
Mm-hmm.
three of the Celtics. So you had Garnett,
Allen,
Pierce, you had Ray
Rondo, don't
Allen.
forget him.
Like that we were not gonna beat that team. Not yet. We were not ready. I think the next year we were, but they didn't make it. But we were not ready for that team. That team had to win at least one. And they did. And they beat us, and they beat us bad. It was bad, but you know what? It made Kobe hungrier.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the next season, Kobe finally gets, well, he makes an All Star again. Kobe has been making so many All Stars. This is his 11th All Star appearance right here. That's just crazy. And you guys win another ring. Kobe gets his fourth ring against the White Howard Orlando Magic.
It was so good. 2009 was like the best year ever for me personally. So 2009, the New York Yankees win their championship, the first one since the year 2000. So that was special. 9 years later, the Yankees win a championship. We were going crazy. It was against the
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia Phillies. And then 2009, the Lakers finally, Kobe, my favorite player, gets his first ring without Shaq. And he's the man and he's the finals MVP. And I was just like on top of the world. But my best accomplishment in 2009, on August the 14th, the host of this podcast was born. So that was the cherry on top of a great year. That was probably one of my favorite years because everything in sports came together, everything in life came together, and you were my first child. So that really brought it home. I think I became a man that year. And there you came, so you were part of that awesome year of 2009. And that was, like I said, that was one of the best
I
years
think
ever.
it's obvious. The best moment was when this host of the podcast was born. Come on, come on.
Of course, it doesn't even compare.
Yeah. In the next season, we have Kobe making his 12th. Oh my gosh, I'm not even like. Okay, guys, that's it. He's just making an All Star every year. It's that simple. And Kobe gets his revenge on the Celtics, beating them in the finals.
That was big. That championship was huge, man. It was game seven. I was sweating bullets. Kobe was, it was a tough matchup. The big three were healthy, so they were good to go. We had our own kind of big three. We had Powell, we had Ron Artest. We had a good team, but the Celtics were so good. And right when we thought we could put them away, they just kept fighting back. I think we won that game by like 3 or 4 points. So I still remember this possession. Kobe's dribbling down. He's taking the ball down. It's like under a minute left, so it's already like the seconds are already ticking down the game clock. And I'm like, oh my God, Kobe, if you don't make this shot, man, we are in trouble, dude. We are in really, really bad trouble. So he's taking it down. The entire Celtics team, you can tell they're just looking at Kobe because they're ready to all let their men go and focus on Kobe with whatever move he makes. And Kobe pulls off one of the most MVP moves in the history of the Lakers. He makes that dribble move as if he's going to go in, and the man off of Ron Artest cheats a little bit. He takes like one step to the right, and boom, Kobe makes a perfect pass right across, hits Ron Artest. Ron Artest with no hesitation throws it up, boom, three-pointer. That was the basket of the game off an assist from Kobe. And that was the winner. I think like Kobe shot like two more free throws to end it, but that was it. That was it. And that was one of the most satisfying championships as a fan that I've ever experienced. I mean, game
Yeah.
seven against the historic rival Celtics, that was the best moment I've ever had in sports as a fan. And my guy Kobe was right in the middle of it, getting his next finals
Yeah,
MVP.
I mean, you guys got your revenge, right? I mean, you guys deserved that championship, and Kobe was Kobe. So when you're like, Kobe is just Kobe. Anyways, after this season, I think we should actually skim a few seasons because in these next couple of 2 seasons, not many happened. But this is the 2010 decade now, and Kobe kind of like his body starts to give up on him, I think. And yeah, I want to
Yeah.
sim to the 2012 through 13 when Kobe Bryant torn his Achilles.
Yeah, so I remember we got Dwight Howard, and that was gonna be like Kobe's last run because at this point, LeBron and those boys they were taking over. Like the NBA, he was handing the NBA off to LeBron and this next takeover. But I remember that game. It was against the Warriors. We had Dwight Howard, and Dwight Howard was the worst Laker acquisition ever. I mean, oh my God. He came in with that crybaby mentality and he didn't like when Kobe yelled at him, and he wasn't ready to be no Robin to Kobe. So it was just like a Kobe and Shaq deja vu. Like Dwight Howard was like, dude, I was the man in the finals and I went up against you. So why am I here taking crap from you like if I'm
Because
some role
he is,
player?
but oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, no comment. So Kobe was still carrying the team with Dwight Howard on the team. He was going off to just get us in the playoffs. So Kobe was having like a crazy stretch of games. He was still dunking. He was still doing what he had to do. And against the Warriors, he tore his Achilles. Still came back to make the free throws when he tore
Wow.
his Achilles. and then he walked off. And it was like, dude, you have a torn Achilles. Like, how did you even get up? Never mind, go make the free throws. It was just crazy. Kobe was just built differently. He had so many injuries in his career, but that was the nail in the coffin. That's the one that ended the Kobe Bryant that we all
Yeah, I
remember.
mean, it's devastating as well because that's the Black Mamba right there. And once that those type of injuries like Achilles, I think the only player so far that I've seen like recovered and be stronger and kind of be better is Kevin Durant, and he's pretty young. So when you're like old at that time, since Kobe was like I want to say like 36, I want to say here or like 35. Yeah,
Yeah, probably in his mid 30s
yeah,
at least, because he retired at what,
38.
38 or
He retired at
36, 38.
38.
So that was it. Yeah, so he was like 36 when that
Yeah,
happened.
and it was sort of a breakdown and sort of giving Kobe a sign like, bro, I can't, like his body's just talking to him like, I can't do this no more. Just, we could play more seasons, but like 3 more seasons and I'm out.
Basically. And that's exactly how it went down,
Yeah,
you know? So, I mean, then we fast forward
last season.
to his final season. Yeah, I mean, so super accomplished career. How many All-Stars did Kobe make?
Uh, Let me see here. So he made the 98 one. That's one. And then he basically made 2000 through 2016. So he made 18 All-Stars appearance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 18 All-Stars, a couple of gold medals. He won 2 gold medals, 2008,
Mm-hmm.
2012. He got his
Yep.
MVP. He won a couple of
Got
scoring
his
titles as
he
well,
got two finals
and
MVPs.
2 finals MVPs and
He
five
got one more than
rings.
Shaq.
Listen, that's an accomplished career in my book. That last game though, that was a really fun game. He played the Utah Jazz. I saw the
Mm-hmm.
entire game, and I remember just feeling like, wow, man, it's really over. It was hard. It was tough because not too long before, Derek Jeter had also walked away
Yeah.
from the game. He had a
I think
great
it was
final game
that
as
year.
well.
I think it was
So
the
he had
next season, the season after Kobe thing, torn his Achilles. I think that's when Jeter walked out as well.
yep. So Jeter was the man. He hit a walk-off hit on his final game. And then Kobe Bryant scored, what was
Mm-hmm.
it,
60
60?
points.
60 points at 38 years old against the Utah Jazz. I mean, come on. That was like a storybook ending.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was Kobe. He dropped 60 on his final game at 38 years old. So they were just feeding him the ball. He caught some fire and he ended up winning the game with some crazy shots. And that was Kobe. That was the end of one of the best ever NBA careers for one of the greatest players of all
Yeah.
time. I was very fortunate as a fan to have that for 20 years of my life.
Yeah. And Kobe inspired a lot of kids. He inspired a lot of his fans. He even inspired like players as an icon, as a legend. And like, yeah. Anyways, after this commercial, we're going to be talking about Kobe Bryant, the author, Kobe Bryant, the father, and basically Kobe Bryant, the regular person, after he retired, basically.
All right, well, good stuff, buddy. Looking forward to it.
All right.